Welcome to the Savvy Property Investors Podcast, a weekly show that delivers the best hard-hitting property industry news, business advice, and talks that will get you ascending in the real estate industry. Now, here's your host, the amazing award-winning property and business coach, best-selling author, and serial entrepreneur, Miss Sapphire Gray.
Well, welcome to the Savvy Property Investors Show. Today's topic, we're talking about how to manage your life while running a business. Our guest today is Tracey Woods from the Landlord Smart, Tanwood Property Partners, and HMO in High Hills. Our guest this week is Tracey Woods. She'll be sharing with us how to manage your life while running a business. Tracey Woods is a successful businesswoman helping women and property professionals grow and change their lives with investments. Tracey started her property investment journey 21 years ago, and she doesn't look it, and has since built up her own portfolio of rental properties, that's buy-to-lets and HMOs. This has led her to launch her first business in 2012, Tanwood Property Partners, providing HMO services to investors who wanted to get into the HMO but didn't know how. She sourced, managed conversions and furnished and dressed those properties for her clients. With her vast HMO experience, Tracey then launched Landlord Smart in 2016 to help property professionals keep their cash and expand quicker into the most tax-efficient way by using lease finance to fund furnishing their properties in their rental properties. Tracey also runs an online education business, HMO in High Hills, supporting women in learning how to invest in HMOs to maximize profits. Not only does Tracey run a successful business and ventures that she does, but also emphasizes the importance of a good balanced lifestyle and healthy choices. Today, we'll talk to her and tap into her expertise so that she can show us exactly what she means. I'm your host, Sapphire Gray. So let's get started. Tracey, thank you for joining us today. And how are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. And thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So let's just dive in. When did you first go into business?
So it was in 2012 when I launched the Tanwood business, and that came about because I'd had a few years of experience within the world of property, and I really got into HMOs at that point and started not only doing my own HMOs, but then I started getting people asking me to help them do HMOs as well. So it made sense to actually launch a business. And the whole idea of me getting involved in the world of HMOs was to increase the monthly cash flow that I was generating, even though I'd got a buy-to-let portfolio at the time. And obviously that was to replace my income so I could give up the working career that I had at that moment in time.
Brilliant. And how did these ideas come about for your businesses?
So it was literally doing the HMOs myself that made me want to start to help others with doing HMOs as well. So what was one side of it. But obviously, having then had a few years experience, so from 2012 to 2016, I had that bit of experience of HMOs and just how much capital us as investors were putting into every HMO project to make them look amazing, because that was part of my business was all about making good quality accommodation at the cheapest possible price you could, if you like. When it comes to furnishing at the end of a project, it was always that last few grand that you've got to find to spend on it. And it was that, alongside of my business partner having experience of lease finance being used in the commercial sector. And we put the two together, which then came up with the idea of Landlord Smart.
Excellent. I love that, because it does make you, sometimes people don't come out of the box, so to speak. They look at one business model and they think, well, yeah, that's for that business. But what you've done is come out of the box and said, actually, we can actually do this, not only commercial, but but for residential properties as well, which I think is a really smart way of doing it.
Hence the name.
So what are some of the top three things needed for any businesswoman to succeed?
I think the first thing is that you've got to be passionate about what you're doing. You know, for me, property investing, as much as it started a long time ago, I would never say that initially I had any passion for it. It was, yep, it makes sense. Invest in property, rent it out, and it's going to give you some sort of income. But alongside of that, obviously, you do get the issues that you can have with tenants and that side of it as well. But when Landlord Smart came about, I had that experience of furnishing and finishing those HMOs to a good quality standard so that it achieved a maximum rent. And I found that teaching and helping other people to do the same was definitely something I was very passionate about. You know, in my working career, in my job, if you like, I did do some teaching then, and it was relating to software, but it was still something I was very passionate about. So I think passion for what you're wanting to do is definitely the first thing that I would say is really, really useful. And then organisation. So organising what you're doing, planning, having goals, etc. Not just going, well, I think this is what I'll do, or I think this is what I'll do, but actually being very organised. And as women, I believe that women are far more organised. Sorry, men, but that is the case. We are far more organised, and that comes from family environments and running a home and looking after children, and very often working as well. We have to be organised, and that then sort of leads into the routine side of things, because routine is very important to be able to achieve anything. And
absolutely,
you know, for business women to succeed, they have to have organisation and have routines of when they're going to be doing what. Yeah.
So what do you mean by routines?
Well, for me, one of the biggest things that I learned was actually you have a lot of skills in being a woman, running a family, running a home, bringing up children, etc. And they are all transferable skills that we can take into the world of business as well. And a lot of women don't realise that. I mean, I remember I had 2 children. I'd been at home for 9 years, hadn't worked for 9 years, looking after them. When they both went to school, I actually sat there and I thought, my gosh, I've got nothing to put on a CV if I want to apply for a job anywhere. And I remember going to what was called a women's returner course type thing, where they helped you and taught you. And one of the real big things and takeaways that I had from that course was that they helped me to understand how all the skills that I had were transferable into the world of working and business. And routine is one of the biggest things. And, you know, for me, since then, I've always looked at my routines. And I think, you know, having routines means that you have a plan to work to during every single day. And it might be that your routine goes out the window at the weekend, because you say, well, now is my family time. I'm not doing any of the other stuff. But routine's not only in your personal development, but also in a business world as well. So routine is so important.
I also believe that as well, because even at the weekend, I have a routine. It's either seeing my kids, or that they're all grown now, or my grandbabies, or just simply knowing that personal times at the weekend. During the week, I have a routine for the businesses, and then at the weekend, I have a routine for my personal life. So you do have a balance with your routines, and transferable skills is really important. Excuse me. So how important do you feel continuing education and learning are to be more successful, to become more successful?
Well, again, I mean, this comes back from my own experiences, really, of, we go through life, you go to school, education, and you're going to get a job and you work your way up through a job. And actually, to have any progression in life, you've got to learn. You've got to continue to learn and always be open to learn.
True.
And when I got involved in property all those years ago, too long, it was... I didn't actually know what I was doing. And it was just on the advice of somebody saying you should do it. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll take a chance on it and I'll do it. But I didn't really know what I was doing. Things pottered along. And yes, I did manage to do a few property projects, but actually things really started to accelerate once I got the education and learned so much more about the world of property. Not only was I looking at HMOs, I was understanding rent to rent, I was understanding lease options, I was understanding all these different strategies that I never would have known before. And that therefore opened up a whole world of property rather than just the little box that I was in. So I think the education that we need helps us to grow as people, and the same goes for business, because when you are running a business, if you all of a sudden you think, well, I know everything, I know how to do this, I can do it all.
No.
It doesn't get us anywhere. We are forever growing, and our brains are so powerful to keep putting in information every single day is so important. And never believe that you know it all, because I mean, I remember somebody once saying to me, in the world of education, if you're ripe, you're rot, and if you're green, you're growing.
Okay.
So be green. I don't know everything. Please teach me, and use education to move you forward. And it will actually escalate your progress if you're using education, for sure.
Yeah, and I always believe that, be a sponge, soak up as much as you can, especially when you're in the property realm. I always say, educating yourself. If you've never done property investment before, get some knowledge in so that you can decide on the strategy that best suits who you are and best suits your finances as well. Because some people just leap into, I'm going to buy a property. They go and buy a property and then they think, oh, what do I do now? And who do I rent it to? Or what type of group do I rent it to? Or how should I do it up? And where do I get my lease furniture from? All these kind of things will pop up if you're not educated. If you don't know what you don't know, you're never going to know. And you just put yourself in a situation where you can't progress or become successful because you're just doing something off of your own education. And I'm not saying you can't learn like that, but having someone else's knowledge and walking in someone else's footsteps is always the best way to go. So brilliant. Mindset also plays a huge part in success. Why is that?
Well, I'm a great believer in, education can give you the skill set, but actually, if what your mind is saying and the way that you're thinking doesn't grow at the same level, then actually there will always be a mismatch. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but actually the mindset to implement what you've learned, to actually take action and believe that you can is so important. The mindset is, for me, there's been a lot of growth in my personal development as well as the education and understanding of the world of property, the world of business, etc. A lot of it, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't focus a lot on my own personal mindset and how I think of things, how I see things, how I deal with things. And I am a very different person today to what I was many years ago, just by reading a lot of like personal development type of books, learning how to deal with things in different ways rather than being reactive, because our reactions are what causes the emotions that we, so if you get cross with somebody, then you're going to feel cross. It gives you that emotion, that feeling, and therefore anything you do after that will be impacted by that emotion you felt. So mindset for me has been a massive, massive part of my growth within the world of business. And I think everybody should do some of it. And I know some people think it's a little bit woo-woo and they go, well, but actually the first thing, realizing we talk to ourselves all the time.
True.
And, don't say anything to yourself that you wouldn't want to say to somebody else.
Absolutely. So what elements, in your opinion, makes up a good, healthy mindset?
Keep feeding it good stuff.
True.
I was once told that the brain it's like a computer, and if you take a computer and you insert a USB stick into it that contains a virus, then that virus will spread around that computer, and eventually the computer will die because it won't be able to cope. That's the way that the brain works, in the same way. So if we're putting in negative, even the self-talk is negative, eventually it will kill our own brains, and we can't survive. So actually, as you would do with a computer, to make it do more wonderful things, you put new software into it.
Yeah,
and
keep it updated.
You actually improve it. And that's what you have to do with your brain. So constantly doing it. And, going back to the routine side of it, it's so important to make those aspects part of your daily routines, because, even a little bit of the quiet time, people refer to it as meditation. I don't like the word meditation, but actually quiet time where you can just stop your brain from going 100 miles an hour, which very often our brains do. That's crucial to a healthy mindset. Yeah.
And also meditation could be seen as taking in that information and really understanding it and embracing it as well. And it's not mindset. A lot of people do call it woo-woo stuff and, what are you doing, trying to take over my brain or something. But I look at it as something to set a positive tone within yourself.
Yes.
Because when you start to do that, when you start to feed yourself, as you suggested, positive actions, positive things that you're reading, it really does help you to be a better version of yourself as well. Yeah. Because all your output to somebody else is going to be positive. So it really does help you develop just those skills to be personable to other people as well. Especially when you're in a property environment, you're going to have tenants that really push your buttons. But once you start that resilience and that kind of how to deal with people and communicate, it really does balance you out as well. And that is going back to routines. That is the routine you should get into. How you speak to people, how you want to be treated is how you should be treating somebody else.
Yeah.
Tracey, you've shared some great insights. So join us after the break with more insights from Tracey.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button below. Our podcast is only made possible by great listeners like you.
So welcome back. Tracey, you've shared some really fantastic insights, and I really want to continue with us talking about what, the benefits of having this, how to manage yourself and your business successfully with a positive, healthy outlook to life. So how can one implement routines in their personal life without feeling overwhelmed?
That is a really good question, because I think everybody as human beings does get the feeling of being overwhelmed sometimes. We can all be really busy people with a lot going on, have deadlines to meet, and sometimes feel that we are overwhelmed. And I think one of the biggest things that, again, I've been taught, it's not, me just knowing this, it's something that I've been taught, is to actually allocate blocks of time to do certain aspects and certain things that you need to do, because we waste so much of our time when we allow external forces to dictate what we're doing.
True.
So shut off external forces, all the the pings on your phone, the pings on coming up on your computer from emails coming in, turn all of them off, because actually they are then dictating what you do. So if I was sitting here having this conversation and all of a sudden I went, oh, hang on a second, and I darted off to look at my phone, it would detract me from what the conversation is that we're having, but also it would waste time.
Yes.
So allocating slots for, or time chunks, if you like, for activities means that you're a lot more focused in what you're doing. So if you said, right, okay, I need to write a report or a business plan, let's say, I need to write a business plan, and I know that it's going to take me a few hours to do that. So today I am going to block out an hour chunk in my diary that I'm going to focus on that business plan, and I'm not going to let anything else, my phone ringing, my emails coming in, Facebook Messenger posts pinging, I'm not going to let any of that detract me from what I'm focused on. And doing it that way, and even down to things like pretty color coding in your calendar, so you can go, well, this is the time that I'm doing this. I've got an hour in the morning. When you get up in the morning, do your personal development stuff. Don't just wake up and jump out of bed and get into the day. Think about what your routine's going to be and put them all in your diary in chunks. And then you can become far more organized.
Yeah. And less overwhelmed. I've always said do a 90-day plan. Because if you know what's coming up, you're not feeling overwhelmed because you've already put it on there and you're just taking action then. And I always say that before you get out of bed, don't go on your phone. Don't start the day off by looking at your social medias. Think about your day ahead. What can you do to make it more productive and less overwhelming? We only get overwhelmed if we've not planned.
Absolutely.
So I've always said plan your time ahead of time. Yes, things will come up, family issues, things like COVID has come up last year. No one planned for that. But then you pivot. Always make sure you can pivot so that you can cater for any slight changes or big changes that arise, so that you know that your plan is going to work for you, and then you really don't feel overwhelmed by it. What advice would you give a business owner, entrepreneur who is at the early stages of their career?
Well, you just hit the nail on the head, really, and that is planning. Definitely plan. I do agree that 90 days is a good time frame to look at. We're all led to believe that you should be thinking years and years ahead and what's the end goal. And don't get me wrong, it's great to have a vision and have goals to work towards, and I think goals are very important, but actually planning what you're going to do, and when you achieve things or you reach targets that you've set for yourself, rewarding yourself as well, because so often we just keep going and we keep, well, we've reached that goal now, so now we're just going to set a massive goal that we've got to work even harder to get to, and we don't reward ourselves. I remember back in the days of bringing on more and more properties, and in my property business, I literally would say to myself, every 3 months I'm going on holiday. It was part of my plan for life. It was, I wanted to change the way that I looked at life. It wasn't all going to be about work, and it was about generating that more passive income, if you like, from the world of property and the portfolio that I had, to enable me to then say, every 3 months I'm going to go away. And I'm not talking about, fancy 2-week-long holidays. I'm talking about a little break, something for me to reward me for doing what I'd done within the business.
Yeah. And I call it the pat on the back reward. I always tell my clients, every time you've achieved something, I don't care whether it's a bar of chocolate, a bottle of wine, I don't care what it is, or bubble bath or a spa day, treat yourself because you've achieved something. And it makes you want to add up your rewards as well, because the moment you start to tick off those little to-do things that you have to do, and on that planner, you're then saying, all right, then what's my next reward? And I'm like yourself, I like to go abroad. So before everything had happened, I was 6 months away and 6 months here. And I split that up over the year. But I love traveling, and that's my gift to myself. But I do smaller gifts to myself. So I can have the spa day, go to the movies, or have a meal out, or have a bottle of wine. So those little rewards as well just says you've hit a milestone in what you wanted to achieve for yourself. So I totally agree with that as well. And so many people have sacrificed, as we have as well, a lot to be successful in their field, giving up their time, family, leisure. Is there any other way?
I think again, you've got to find the balance that fits with you. You know, for some people, they love the fact that they're working constantly, and for them it may not be important at that time to have that family time or to have that time away. I think you've got to decide your reason why. Identify your reason why you're doing it, and then determine the balance that you need to have to achieve and reach that goal.
Absolutely.
What your reason why. You know, again, somebody that in the world of training said to me, you know, do things you can today that will enable you just to live the life that others will never be able to do. True. But it is not all about work constantly. You've got to get a balance. And also another good thing that I once did was the wheel of life. And starting to appreciate, because sometimes I don't think we really realize where our focuses are. And you can get so engrossed in your business or building a property portfolio that other things in your life suddenly start to slip. And doing the wheel of life where you're effectively scoring all of the different aspects of your life, whether that be relationships, you know, your own personal progress, i.e., you know, being healthy, as well as mindset, being healthy in your body, all sorts of things, alongside of the working, family, holidays, all of those things. When you start to look at them and you go, well, actually, I have shifted all of my emphasis over here to business, and that means that my family are suffering. And don't get me wrong, you know, sometimes you do have to work hard to achieve what you want, but you've got to find a balance that suits you and still enables you to achieve your goals.
Absolutely, because when the girls were younger, I actually had a family meeting and sat everybody down and said, look, this is what mum wants to do. I want to build a business. And I got them involved in agreeing that this is what we're going to do. But their reward was the holidays. Their reward was all the things that they wanted if they allowed me to have that time. So when we had that time, that then culminated us spending family time together. But I've always involved my family in business decisions so that they know this is what I'm doing. So they're aware of what's going to be coming up. So they don't feel like, oh, you know, mum's leaving us out now. And then each one of them, I've got 4 daughters, each one of them, I had individual date nights with them as well. So they felt special that I was targeting just them. It was all about them. And now I have to do that with my grandkids as well now. So I have individual times with my grandkids as well. A couple of weeks ago, I was playing Lego with my grandson. So I took out time for him to do that, you know. So you have to find some form of balance. But when you're starting out, that balance might be more to build out the business than it is balancing 50-50 for you and the family and your own pleasure time. But you will start to understand how you can do that once you start building it in. But inform everyone. The simple way to get the permission to have it on balance in the first place is to speak to your family about it and tell them exactly what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. Great advice.
Brilliant. And how can someone build up the confidence to pursue a business venture properly?
Again, it comes down to self-belief.
Yeah.
You know, I think having got education and doing my first HMO projects for myself, I mean, it was very much a compliment the first time that somebody said to me, I've been watching what you're doing, Tracey, and I really want to do what you're doing, but I don't have a clue how. And it was, could you help me? It was great to have that somebody asked me to do it. But actually, I had to have the confidence in myself that I could actually deliver what they wanted to. And yes, it helped because I'd already done it. So experiences that you can take forward will definitely help you and your own confidence. But it is important to also, I think, keep growing and keep being educated to enable you to move things forward in the right direction. You know, if the day that I left my job, you'd have told me that I'd have run the business as I have, be doing what I'm doing today, I would never probably have believed that. And it was only over time that my own confidence and self-belief grew and continues to grow every day. You know, it's not something that has stopped at all. I'm not ready to rot yet. I'm still growing.
So, Tracey, can you leave our viewers and listeners, what is your top 3 tips that you can leave our viewers with?
I think number 1 will be use both skill set and mindset.
True.
You know, don't just go for one. Don't just get all the education and not work on yourself. It's important to have both together. The other one number 2, I would say, is keep your drive and passion alive by doing the things you love. If you can't do things, or there are things you're doing that you hate, find somebody else to do it for you. So don't put everything on yourself, because when you're unhappy, you don't progress. When you're happy and in your flow, if you like, doing the things you love, then you'll progress a lot quicker. And thirdly, my gosh, this is a difficult one. Top 3. I think realize that you are good enough.
Yeah.
And your goals may be different to everybody else's.
Yeah.
But whatever you want to do, you can achieve it with the right help and the right support. But you have to believe that you are good enough to do it.
I think that's brilliant advice, because it has to come from self-belief. And it's not about faking it till you're making it. Each one of our beliefs, each one of our confidence is built out of our why. It goes back to when you're saying you've got to understand what your why is. And once you get that, my why was my kids and now grandkids. So my why evolved over time, but it's still around my family. And I always am consistent with that why. Why do I do what I do? Why do I love doing what I do? I am passionate about what I do. And I think that's the thing that we have to understand here. When we talk about mindset, when we talk about passion, and, you know, having all these routines and planning things, it all comes down to your why. Why are you actually doing it? Because once you nail that, you're everything, the world is your oyster, as I say. So, Tracey, how can our listeners and viewers contact you and learn more about your services, especially the one with the high HMO and high heels? I love that.
Yes. I mean, we are on Facebook, so I have a Facebook group. I mean, if anybody looks me up, Tracey Woods, then they'll be able to get all the links for everything: Landlord Smart, HMOs in high heels. I've given you some emails and the Facebook and Instagram and all the rest of it. So yeah, look me up on there, send me messages. I love interacting with people. I have to set my routine and say these are the times that I will be responding to any messages. So don't expect them straight away. But no, I do enjoy hearing from people, definitely.
That's brilliant. So, Tracey, thank you so much for sharing some really fabulous insights into how you can, from even if you're new to business, new to property investing, or a seasoned investor, how you can use your time wisely and how you can also manage because that's what we're talking about, how to manage your life while running your successful business, I'm going to put in there. So, Tracey, thanks again for joining us. So come on, you savvy investors, let's take flight. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, download, and share. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Until then, bye for now. It's the Savvy Property Investor Show. See you soon.
This week's episode of the Savvy Property Investors Podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, the Savvy Women Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to our website, www.savvywomen.co.uk, to gain access to our free resources and more insights about our guest speaker today. Remember, we make your business our business, so you can unlock your full potential and improve your quality of life.